Hello and welcome back to a video. This is actually going to be the review and the summary and my thoughts about Double Zeta or Zeta Gundam to be exact. Um, so I'm basically gonna go over the details, do my analyzation of it, and we'll go from there. Anyway, I just want to say right now that Zeta was a better step improvement from the original in terms of like audio quality, in terms of characters, definitely animation. It didn't look like a slideshow basically. So a big step up. I get it's because it's a few years later that it came out, so they definitely had time and they had budget at that point. So budget and time you can do a lot with. So it definitely came out to be better. I enjoyed the main character Camille quite a bit actually. So in like the first couple episodes, Camille was very mysterious. We didn't know what his intentions were, what he was gonna do. He was just kind of like acting on impulse. I guess you would say. And as the series progressed, that kind of changes, and we'll get to that in a minute too with his character. Like the first couple episodes with it is he showed up to the base and he basically stole a Gundam and helped. Well, at the time we didn't know Char steal those two other Gundams, and he didn't have a right reason really. He even has like moments of being a rebellious teenager where Gerard is at first making fun of his name, and he hears it, and so he goes and punches him. A Titan soldier, somebody that's more often the average child. Like the only thing I believe, if I remember correctly from his character, his parents were the people that helped make the Gundams. That's only status he had was his parents. They made the Gundams. He had no status. He did not matter in the world. So, as those first 5 episodes, we mostly went on that adventure of him being rebellious and stealing the Gundam anytime he could. I mean, he would fly out, he would do whatever he wanted to. At this point, I'm just kind of like, I don't know what to think about it because it seems to be a reoccurring theme throughout the series. So, anyway, it looks like Camille started to learn more about what Titan was about and what they're trying to do, and they're not the nice guys, they're not the good guys. And so he really starts to want to fight against them. And with the help of Char and friends, he does so. And so the series continues where I feel Camille is growing little by little, but in the age of the anime and the fact that at that time I believe like that's like getting into the modern style of anime because that was when it really started to become more modern. They didn't really have a format for how they wanted to portray that type of like animation to look like, and it like the characters, the emotions, all that stuff. They were still figuring it out, and they were starting to get it, but they weren't quite there. So with like the story of Camille, they slowly started to get that. He was fighting more. We got introduced to the Shiki, which amazing suit by the way, and that's pretty much what was carrying it was fight scenes, and we were still getting that typical Gundam style so far, where every episode, in order to progress with the story, there had to be in a fight scene. There has to be one fight scene in order for it to just progress at all. And for me, fight scenes are cool, but they're cool in moderation, I guess. Like if you're having every episode as a fight, it starts to kind of drag the series down from the story aspect. All it is two giant mech machines fighting, and then oh, there's the Xeon are starting to plan to go over here because of this past event thing kind of situation, and that's about it. And then it'll stop right there. Then the next episode they'll start digging into a little bit, and then fight a little bit more, and then end. And it just did that every single episode, so it followed like a pattern. So that's kind of my take on it, I guess. I don't know. It's hard to explain. So to get into like the Char situation and stuff. Later on, we actually got a moment where we went to Earth and we got to meet Armadillo and catch up with the group. We got that really cool moment of what happened in these 7 years since the 1 year war. So we got the fact that Char and Armadillo don't really hate each other anymore. They're kind of neutral towards each other. Well, they're basically. So I've seen a lot of things in the community, so might as well get those two a room basically because they have that bit of bromance kind of situation, but it's kind of very subtle because in the 80s they didn't really again know how to portray a lot of things. So we got introduced to that. And Camille kind of tried to help, or Amadou tried to help Camille kind of progress. You know, the only reason Camille really knew about Amadou was because he's such a iconic legend through the community. He helped end that war. He helped stop Xeon, and so Camille is learning about him through again. At first, he found Haro, and then he found Char, and of course, Bright came into the picture and really started seeing Amadou in Camille. So we got that progression there. We also started getting more pilots. So, like for example, whenever Camille started to learn about how bad Titan was, Emma, which was a Titan, she was part of Titan's army. She came over and joined them. So that's an example of realizing that she messed up and she can fix herself by coming over and helping basically the good guys. And during the whole time they're on Earth, we actually get to, like I said, we got to catch up with everybody. So we got to catch up with Fa and then the kids from the original White Base. Well, in fact, one of the kids decides to run off with Char and go up to the Agama, which is where Camille and them are fighting, and he starts piloting and helping them. So that's a really cool moment that they brought into it. Now, during the time on Earth, Camille has a moment where he finds another new type. But this new type is different, and her name was Four. And so this was really the moment where Camille also he grew a lot with Four. I think Four was his biggest growth point due to the fact that later on, and this is definitely going to be a spoiler video because I've seen the series. You can go watch my series on it and kind of get my viewpoint as I watched it. But Four was kind of like a love interest for him. The teenage boy finding his first girlfriend kind of situation, even though he had Fa in the background. We're going more into Camille and his harem later. Because as much as people don't want to admit it, the series started to become like a harem after a while. Not 100%, but kind of. But okay. But anyway, so he started learning about Four. But Four is what they would call a psychic new type or a cyber new type. Basically, they're artificial new types is what I was understanding because the series had a lot more opened up more questions and answered. And so cyber new types, they're very emotional. They're very unstable because they're not a natural new type. So like with Four, they were basically they brainwashed her, erased her memories from her past. They basically they basically put her in her hypnosis so whenever certain things would happen, she would trigger and basically switch on a dime. The one minute she's lovey-dovey with Camille, the next minute she sees the Mark II Gundam and she wants to jump in her Gundam, which she also got the Psycho Gundam, which was really cool. Awesome suit. Probably one of the biggest Gundams in the series so far. Actually, the biggest Gundam in the series so far. And so she would just like flip on a dime and want to kill him and everything like that, even though it was Camille. And so she was just unstable. Anyway, we go back. We don't know what happens to her because she basically tries to help Camille on her way back up into space because there's a point when they got to go back into space. During this time of entering space, we find out that there's more like villains and stuff like that. So I really think it's cool that they introduced a villain a little earlier named Sirocco. I can never. By the way, watch the series. I was not able to say his name for like 90% of the series, and then I just started practicing. I got it. But he wasn't revealed as like the main villain till the end. So we're gonna get to the end here. So after Camille's fighting, he finds out about them. He also finds out that Xeon is trying to like basically resurrect from the dead. So we're gonna get into the Xeon stuff. So I think it's cool that they're trying to bring back the Xeon aspect of it. And Hammond was an awesome character. We also got the introduction of Minivia, which is the princess. She's the last heir to the throne, and so Char's interaction with her was kind of like it was neat because he saw her as like a kid that as a child because he knew her as a baby. So I think the aspect of Char and her really helped out and just drove the fact that this was different than the original where the original had barely any story. So whenever I suggest a series to people, I try to suggest the first series for the trilogy movies because those really shortened down because honestly that could have been done in what the 4 hours 5 hours that those movies covered and not 50 episodes or 42 episodes. So the fact that they're adding this aspect with Char, they're showing more background, they're actually showing story instead of just fighting. And so we get to actually explore the world a little bit through these moments. So I think the series is pretty good through that. So anyway, we get towards the end of this. So to kind of finish this up, so Camille has this moment where he becomes more of the new type that he should be, but Siroku is a very messed up guy. And to explain him a little bit for those that may have seen the series, may not have series, and just want to watch this, he basically is like a psychic or cyber new type himself. He essentially is. So he has the ability to control things with his mind, and that includes brainwashing people. So he basically is able to brainwash people, which he does with Ryokoa. He basically thinks that he's gonna treat her well and everything, even though all he did was mess with her mind a little. So that's kind of his powers, is he can bring girls over. He did the same with Sada, and basically these girls are so convinced that he loves them and that he's everything for them that they're willing to die for him. So that's he can kind of do that. Now, I want to give the story credit because we're at this point where Camille had his big shock. He's already lost a lot of things in his life. He lost his parents at the beginning of the series and stuff, and I just like the aspect of he actually had a lot of things more to lose than Amadou. Amadou lost his mother basically at one point, or no, he lost his father, thinking that he did, but his father was just kind of crazy. But Camille, he lost his mother and father. They were both jerks, so he cared, but he didn't care. He hated Titan because of that. But we got to a moment where Four comes back and we find out she's alive, but she's been messed with even more. Like they've totally screwed her up. And so Camille, he has like a he wants to save her. He wants to help her, but in the end, he couldn't save her, and well, she died. This was a big moment for Camille because it made him grow up a bunch. It made him stop having that childish attitude, and he was serious. He wanted to take down Titan. And he definitely wanted to take down Sadoko because he figured out what Sadoko was doing with Ryokoa and the other girls and how he wanted to save them as well. So it brought this interesting aspect of actually having a story plot that made sense. I see why a lot of people like Zeta a lot, and that's because of that. The ending of it, I will have to dock it for a bunch because it was probably the biggest FU cliffhanger I've ever seen in a series to date, and I've seen a lot of anime. For those of you that want to be like, yeah, I haven't seen enough anime, I've seen a lot of anime. I don't want to sit there and brag and be like, here's a giant list of it. I could, but it would take you like 2 days to read the list probably. But yeah, I had no life for a long time. I still really don't. But anyway, so the series as a whole, I'm not gonna spoil the ending, so I'm just gonna say it was the biggest FU I've ever seen. So as a whole, Zeta, I would have to give it like an 8 out of 10 because it really brought some aspects, and hopefully they can expand on those aspects as things go on. So this is like my thoughts, my views. I'm gonna rank it at about that, and well, let's see what Double Zeta offers. I'm currently in production of watching that right now. I'm not gonna lie, I do record my videos ahead of time. So this one is my like a week. I give it about every anytime I do an actual review of a series, I give it like a week to settle in, a week or two to settle in. Sometimes two. Yeah, like this one was actually closer to two, and so I can actually think about it, let it kind of, think about it. So I'm just like actually give it some thought of what happened instead of the initial reaction, and that's what you watch. If you're liking this video, please hit the like and subscribe. That always helps out. Leave a comment. Tell me, what did you think about Zeta? Was Zeta a good series, a bad series, or just like in the middle? I rated it an 8 out of 10, so definitely. All right. Again, for this one, I'm out.